So welcome to Ask Me Anything, where we have been delving into the complexities of grief, loss, and healing. I'm Mary Margaret Murphy, and today we're following up from our last powerful discussion with Laura Aguilera from the Center for Reproductive Loss. If you missed that episode, we encourage you to listen. It's an essential conversation about the stigmas and silence surrounding reproductive loss. Laura is obviously with us again to expand on that discussion, and we'll also explore the updated Maternity Guidelines, Chapter 7, Loss and Grief from the Public Health Agency. These guidelines play a critical role in shaping how healthcare providers can better support families navigating pregnancy and infant loss. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, well, thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, it's so good to have you back. Our last episode, and I know after we stopped the recording, I mean, we had such a great discussion. We're like, oh, we got, there's so much more to talk about. But we discussed how mental health and trauma-informed care for families can be so hard to find. We were also talking about comments that weren't helpful for grieving families. So this is where guidelines like the Maternity Guidelines on Grief and Loss from the Public Health Agency of Canada come in. So, Laura, could you explain what these guidelines are and why they are so important?
Yeah, well, first, we would like to take a moment to recognize the incredible work of healthcare workers that face immense challenges every day here in Quebec in the healthcare system. They have staffing shortages, high patient volumes, limited resources, administrative pressures, the conditions are far from ideal. But despite these difficulties, many healthcare providers go above and beyond to offer compassionate care. And that said, as we talked about, the need for formalized protocols around supporting families experiencing perinatal loss is very critical. And without these protocols, care can be inconsistent, and we can leave families, unsupported during this most, vulnerable time. So I feel that these guidelines, sorry, my English is coming out this morning. I have my coffee.
Yeah, that should help.
So sorry. I think that from this framework, these guidelines would not only ensure that every family receives this compassionate care, but also provide healthcare workers with a structured framework, and I think could reduce their emotional and mental burden. That when navigating with such sensitive situations. So the maternity guidelines from the Public Health Agency of Canada, particularly in Chapter 7, is called Loss and Grief. And I think that they offer a very valuable resource. They provide practical principles and strategies that can be immediately help healthcare workers better support these families, and especially even in the absence of official protocols, right? So I think that by integrating this framework into their daily practice, we can take, a meaningful step toward improving this care and easing the challenges faced, by the healthcare providers. So I want to mention three specific contents in this chapter.
Of course, sure.
So the first one, they have first they explain what is perinatal loss. They explain the numbers. 15 to 20% of pregnancies end up in miscarriage. They describe a little bit of infertility also, numbers of SIDS, numbers of stillbirths, etc. I want to say also that when we post this conversation, we will leave the you can see the link to it, so you can go and see it yourself. So the principles of the care of families experiencing loss, I think there's really good because they talk about how important it is individualized care, because every family's grief journey is unique. Like we don't know if they experienced infertility before. We don't know if it is for their first child, the second, etc. No, so care plans should reflect cultural, spiritual, and personal preference, and I think that's a very good guideline. Also, they talk about the compassion and respect, that we have to with which we have to address to these families. The cornerstone of bereavement care is empathy, we know, ensuring families feel heard and validated, okay, which is really important. And they also talk about continuity of care. And they emphasize on the need of ongoing support beyond the hospital, and also connecting families with community resources, like support groups, for example, and follow-up services. I think that this point is really important because I feel like hospitals also lack a little bit of resources.
Mm.
What resources they are out there, right? So I think that it could be important to just uh research about the resources that they have, in their community where the hospital is, and to offer those resources to these families. I think that that could be also useful.
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's the first point. And the second point is that they have this like assessment for the bereaved parents. And I really like it because they talk about the lost context,
Mm.
so they help families understand that, their loss. And this helps a little bit in tailor interventions to their specific needs. So I think this is really interesting. They talk about psychosocial screening, evaluate for immediate risks, like depression, anxiety, um, also ensuring what kind of intervention would be necessary, so the mother, the parents, could have access to it.
Mm.
Okay. And another thing that I found really interesting with this one is the cultural and spiritual needs.
Mm.
As we know, we are a diverse, multicultural country, and I think
Yes,
that is
we are.
beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And is these diverse ways also in which people grieve,
Mm-hmm.
because they incorporate their own beliefs and traditions, that align to the family's beliefs. So I think that these three are very important. When you understand, you meet the family where they are,
Mm-hmm.
you make an assessment of which are the needs, mental health needs, physical health needs, and also the spiritual and cultural assessment, so you can bring these families a better grief care.
Right.
So I think that is really interesting, and I know that all of this sounds amazing, but how to apply it in the specific hospital, I know that's also a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it can be done. I think
Mm-hmm.
that it can be done. And I also, before going to the third point, there are a lot of hospitals, at least here in Montreal, that are doing a lot of things for bereaved parents. For example, on October 15, I had the opportunity to go to the Munich hospital, and they showed us that they separate the the mother who had a loss from the other ones who are having babies.
Mm.
So they separate her in a room. They put a butterfly on the door, so
Mm.
all the healthcare providers know that she had a loss.
Mm-hmm.
They have two cuddle cots
Oh,
at the hospital. A
wonderful.
cuddle cot, for those who do not know, are this uh, boxes in which the baby rests, and
And it's
keeps,
cool. Like it keeps the
yeah, keeps
baby.
him
Yeah.
cool, so the mother and the parent and the father um could have a more time with their
Yes.
baby.
Yes. And I think
I
it's
think,
so important that cuddle cot should
yeah,
be in all hospitals across Canada.
exactly. And I know that they're like, I don't know. I think that they are like 70 in all Canada. And I think that Quebec has like, I don't know if 40 or some kind, they're around the hospitals. I think it's a very good resource also. And this hospital, the Munich, also is receiving a blanket,
Mm.
a cuddle cut blanket. So I think, I mean, they have resources, and they have this beautiful room, and they have a letter written by a mother who had experienced a similar loss, and they have pictures, and they have like this memory box. Like, they are doing things because they recognize and acknowledge the need,
Yes.
right? And I think that is great that hospitals are taking this on their own, and they are trying to do what their best. And I
Mm-hmm.
really celebrate that, and I think we should
Oh, for
say
sure.
that. I think we
Yes, of
should say
course.
that.
Yes.
And last, another thing that I really like about these guidelines is the communication, the way they should share the message, and also how they should communicate with the parents. Because, like, I'm sure you've heard a lot, but in my work I've heard so many communications that go wrong. you know
Yes. Bless
Sorry.
you.
Thank you. So this is about, like, being clear and sensitive, like,
Mm-hmm.
how they deliver the information honestly but gently, avoiding medical jargon,
Yes.
and ensuring understanding, right? Also the active listening,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe allow a space for the parents to respond, like
Yeah.
a little bit of share their feelings, without judgment also. Like, if they want to cry, they will cry, they are sad,
Right.
and also validating is a very powerful tool in grief care. And
Mm-hmm.
the last one is consistency across providers.
Right.
Like, they families, they often encounter multiple caregivers. So as long as there's this unified communication, they can ensure that they do not repeat the story, or they
Right.
they told what happened, and then comes another one, and they tell what happened, and then comes
Jen,
another,
yes.
like, it's just having communication among the healthcare providers. And I think that this is what I want to bring up from these guidelines. There's, I don't know, I don't remember how many pages they are, but they also have this section of what to say and what not to say, which is, I
Yes.
think it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And I just would like to end, my intervention, encouraging all healthcare workers, especially those who are in maternal and neonatal care, to familiarize, with
Mm-hmm.
these guidelines, to read them, because they do offer valuable insights into supporting parents through this very, challenging experience.
I think
And
anyone who's knows someone who's going through a loss like this,
mhm,
it's a resource that they could
yes, yes.
educate themselves so that they are able to be a great support to that
Yeah,
family.
yeah. And having like a structured framework also like this could help standardize compassionate care,
Yeah.
right? So I think that would be a really good
Yeah.
resource there. Yeah.
Wonderful. Laura, as always, you are so insightful and everything. I really enjoyed
Thank
chatting with you. Um,
you.
Here at Baby's Breath, we're also committed to supporting families as they navigate these challenging moments. For those listening, we want you to know that the resources are available. And as Laura said, we will post the link to the resources
Mhm.
when we upload this video to our social media channels. So whether it's connecting with you with support groups, so you know, we're here to connect you with support groups, providing educational materials, or helping you understand your rights. Under the new guidelines, we're here to help. So as we wrap up, I want to thank Laura again for sharing her amazing insights and her
Yeah, thank you.
unwavering commitment to breaking the silence around reproductive loss. So remember, the work we do together, educating, advocating, and supporting, helps ensure no family walks this path alone. So please be kind to everyone.